All right, so in this segment, guys, we're going to go ahead and cover the IC Now's playback menu. So it's going to start off with the screen share as usual. And assuming that you've seen the overview, you might have seen that I already has camera selected earlier. So typical standard 4 split. We did touch upon this a little bit, but the enhancements here on the playback timeline is that now like all the events have candlesticks, so they stand up higher. So when you either when you're zoomed out or zoomed in, it's easy to find those events of when they happen. You can select cameras from multiple different sites if you want. You can select the whole recorder if you want to search the whole recorder. You can do big thumbnail, small thumbnail searches as well, stack wise on the side panel. But most of the adjustments that you're going to primarily do, it's either going to be you're going to select the camera and then you're going to select over here. If you want to simplify your list, you can specify only like intelligence, and I'll probably do that in a moment. And then you would hit search. If you had multiple cameras selected, like every box, as you notice, like as I click on them, they're kind of highlighted with a border in a sense to indicate what box you're currently selected on. So every box has its own timeline. So since I only searched one camera, only this one camera feed is going to actually have a timeline bar. This is way in case if you wanted to either sync playback or if you're searching multiple clips at once, you can play back different things or pause the different clips and then play. It's just each one is separate and uniform. So let's talk a little bit about the button options that we have down here. So on the playback bar itself, that's pretty straightforward, right? You have the time, you see where this footage, and you have the events when those are. You have the timeline down here. This is laid out in military time currently on this software. So when you're zooming in, 1300 is 1 o'clock, 1200 is basically noon. And in regards to the time format, um, on the playback menu itself, there is no way to switch it directly specifically. So you're limited to, even though we have here a 12-hour set. Because even if I switch this to 24-hour or 12-hour, it's still going to hold the same. So unfortunately, on the playback for now, the time bar, it's strictly military time here. Now, after selecting it, and let's say we hit play, we get our time clip. It's going to be on the time bar. You can click anywhere on the time bar, it'll play. If you click below, it's not going to, in the gray area, it's not going to actually jump to that timestamp. You got to click in the green or where the color is at, basically. The gray area is used to slide the slider over left and right. So if we zoom in, because before it was really hard to move this time bar. So if we needed to move it to the next hour or whatever, because you're just instead of zooming in and zooming out, you can do that. So you have to make sure you're clicking on the actual areas of where you need to look. That way you can quickly find what you're looking for. So yeah, gray area, you use that to move the time bar left and right. The colored area, that's where you select, or you can drag your slider left and right. And again, you can zoom in and zoom out either with your scroll wheel. If you're on a laptop with like a trackpad, you can use like depending on your trackpad, you might need like 2 finger scroll in, scroll out, etc. Depending on what it is, which one you have, in your computer preferences settings. Now another function on here before I do like the sync playback, but we are talking about these buttons down here. So let's get to them. This right here, I just mentioned sync playback. So we'll start with that one. This button, you press it, it will sync the playback for all your clips that you have up. So if you did a 4 split and you search 4 cameras or 3 cameras or just even 2 cameras, you would sync the playback so it's playing that same timestamp on both cameras. It's going to play the timestamp based off the recorder's timestamp, not necessarily what your overlay timestamp might be. And the reason why I mentioned this is because on some people's, sorry about that, on some people's units, if you don't have your date and time settings set correct, or you're in a different time zone, for example, like this computer's time zone's at 4:13, but where I'm clicking time playback, it might have been different. But I'm in Eastern, so if I go to live view right now, it's going to be the correct time on live view. But there might be an hour difference in time zones or anything like that. So just be mindful of where you're playing back. It's going to be whatever the time is on the recorder that you selected. So if you want it noon on the recorder's time, then it's going to play back at that noon, not your time. Besides that, you have this button here, which will basically play the clips in reverse. So basically rewind. So you're rewinding your clips, and as you see, the time stamp is counting down 7, 6, 5. So time is now going in reverse. You can click it again to now go back forward instead. So it's just a forward. Do you want to play forwards or do you want to play backwards? Whichever way you want to play. Um, your play pause button, that's pretty standard. Your stop button is going to stop the video clip altogether. We're going to go ahead and play that again. Frame by frame, this will switch to either forward or backwards depending on what you select. But the purpose behind this, um, let's jump to where there is an actual event, maybe, and that'll make it a little bit easier to showcase it. All right, so we got a truck here moving, right? Now, I can do frame by frame, and as you see me pressing it each time, it's moving. That truck is moving frame by frame backwards. Now, the whole purpose really behind this is that way, in case if like you have like a plate or something that you need to look at. Like if this was moving very fast and you needed to get like a better view, it might be better on a different frame than it was on the frame that you're currently looking. So it's like so you can kind of slowly get through it, so you can find the sweet spot as you will. That's what that's for. Right here is the playback speed. So if you let's go ahead and hit play. You can click here. You can slow down the playback speed, or you can speed it up. Playback speed increasing increment or the rate of playback will vary depending on a couple things. The maximum you can do is 8 times, but it will sometimes you won't see 8 times if you have either a slow internet connection or if your computer just can't handle that processing because it needs to buffer the video fast enough. And if it can't read and write, so it's going to be some limitations on your hard drives and your memory and things like that nature. So those will play a factor. If you have audio recording, like you have a microphone, you can click here to listen in onto the audio. So that's the general controls there. You do, if you click on the actual square, you top right, you have a screenshot, so you can take a snapshot of the clip of the event, or you can always do if you need to pause it, you can do hit the magnifying glass. That's digital zoom, and then you can digital zoom in on that object and move it, and then depending on what you need. It is a digital zoom, so all it's doing is blowing up the image. So if something happened way back there and you need to see it, it's not going to be that great of a pixel when you blow it up. That just really depends on pixel density per inch per foot, um, or per meter, square meter. How many pixels per square meter, depending on your scenario. So that will vary. Besides that, you're still same typical controls from live view. You got your split view changes there. On the left side, this is your download button. This is where you see what's been downloaded or what's exporting and what's been exported. Your scissors option, this is will save a clip. By default, it's 1 hour. We kept that same premise. If you're zoomed in too far on the time bar, you might not be able to see the end time, but you need to zoom out to see it. Now, to drag this in where it's at, you left click near the color area, and then you can specify. So if you don't do that, if you try doing it from here, the gray area, remember I told you it's only going to slide time. So anything that's operating like the actual slider on time wise, you have to do it over the where there's actual color, and you can adjust it down to just being a minute. Press the scissors again when once you selected your clip or whatever that area time and you want. You can do any video format. You can specify where to save it. I'm just going to leave a default and hit OK. It's going to stop the video clip because it can't play the video and export it at the same time. So it's going to download your clip, export it, save it, etc., and then you'll be able to access it. That'll be done in a moment. I'll just show you that. It'll prompt you that it's been finished at the bottom. You can go to export, and you can hit this folder, and it'll take you right to the file, and then you can play back that video file. It's a standard MP4 at that point. Now, so we talked about all those. The last button here is the smart search. That's pretty typical. It was in the previous software, but it may have I just picked a bad time to click that button. I guess something was flashing at night. So once you click that, you're going to get this grid, and this grid basically lets you select like an area where it's looking for movement, motion. This does require your camera to have motion enabled and that data being stored. So you select the area, you hit the search button again, and then give it a few moments. As you see it's spinning here, it's going to search for all relevant data events of when there's movement in this spot. And then it's going to highlight the time bar basically with a purple hue to it. There it goes. So as you see, I zoom out, there's a bunch of new purple ticks that weren't originally there. So when you hit play while still in this smart search function, it's only going to play relevant clips. There's a cat that walked through there at that one point, and then there's a truck. There's another truck, and then you're going to see others as they go by. And that's how you can quickly look through like a certain area, a timestamp, etc., depending on what you need. And you can quickly look through and try to find the clip that you're looking for of point of interest. When you're done with this and you want this to stop, like this smart search function, there's this little like power looking symbol down here. You just press that exit, and you press that to exit that advanced search. Now, if we mentioned about selecting file selection, but when you do a search, there's this little arrow thing here that's like your file selector. It's every file was found. Like if I want to play by file, I can always just go back and click on those and it will play. You can also select this file right here, like a checkbox. If I want to save that one, that's the event. I hit the save at the top, and then same thing, you can export it. And we did talk about that. You have this controls here earlier, but I'll just quickly show. In my case, I'm just going to do intelligence. I believe this is set up to record intelligence on this channel. Nope, it's not. It's only set to motion, I guess. So if we had just motion, and then I hit search, and then so even though the IVS rule is set up on the recorder, I guess whoever set it up didn't actually set it to record IVS events. So I'll have to adjust that later. But in a nutshell, that's basically what will happen. You'll have only events then, and it's going to play from one event to the next as it plays along, depending on how long those events are. So like, there's so many of these little ones, but let me zoom in on the timeline. I'm going to select this one here. You got your motion back there. This is going to play through, and then once it's done, it's going to jump to basically the next video file. And that really concludes all of playback. As you may have noticed that when I searched again, this was still selected. I selected search. It's still held on to that search. The only other thing to maybe notice is when you click the calendar selection, you only have to select on the start time. The end time will autofill in for you. But you can see in red basically all the days that actually have footage. So if I wanted to search on the 9th, I would select that and then hit search. If I wanted to select on the 24th, etc., and hit search. Somehow, I guess somebody messed with the date and time incorrectly and recorded in the future. But yeah, that is everything there is to talk about just the playback menu. But you could search for any IVS event. So if you're doing play data recognition and you had IVS set up on that, you would go here, plates, and then you would do intelligence. The other method is to do it through the web interface, which I showed in the overview. And I'll bring that up real quick. But see, I did IVS on this one. It brings up all the plates. It gives you the plate data in the video feed. Let's jump to like another one, and see, it reads out the plate numbers for you guys. And I can quickly jump through them all. And if I need to, I can always either file select download, or I can use the scissors icon to download. The other method to do this playback for users that want the advanced AI search playback, you would go to the device, hit the gear wheel. This will access the web interface of the recorder regardless of whether you're on site or not, so you don't need to worry about port forwarding or anything like that. These are demo recorder, so I'm just going to go ahead and go to playback, and then you go into your advanced search, and then you can do things like the motor vehicle, which is license plate search, and then hit search, and you'll get all your thumbnails like this, and be able to see the plate numbers, and then be able to play back the clip directly in the square. Still select on the other one, but like this one, for example, hit play, and it'll play back up here in the side. And this can all be done straight through the browser, and this is being supported through the software to get you access to the web browser. And that is the event itself. So this is another way to play back. I find this to be very useful when you're trying to do those advanced searches, especially if you're doing like IVS. I can do, for example, just going to do all channels. Then you get all like these all thumbnail views. You can quickly sort through them, select them, and as you see, there's a person walking. Oh, that's the human I was looking for, and I can hit play and find whatever that incident is, and I have a timestamp underneath. So you can quickly play back through the web interface with via the advanced AI search. And the advanced AI search will vary from recorder to recorder. That's why we're not able to tie it all in just yet into the software, because we're trying to make sure it's stable. Number one priority was stability on this software. So maybe it'll come out in a future update, but for now, if you want to do the advanced search playback like I just showed you, you would have to go through the device and then hit that gear wheel to get to that menu. That is everything in regards to playback. Thank you guys for your time, and we'll see you in the next one.